Today I'd like to talk about Antifa. If you haven't seen these masked goons running around the streets of your local city, it's probably either because you don't live in a city whose majority of citizens live with their parents past the age of 30, or because you've been watching too much CNN. Either way, let me summarize. Antifa, short for Anti-Fascist Action, is a domestic terrorism group of young Marxist revolutionary role players who operate under the impression that America is either an Antifa member or they're a fascist Nazi. One of my first arguments against this group is the guise under which they operate. Look at ISIS. They justify their actions through religion. They believe, or at least they claim, that what they do is in goodwill and for the better of the world. Islamic terrorism claims to believe that ridding the world of non-Muslims is doing it a service. Antifa often cites this in eerily similar arguments. In an interview I once saw with a member of the group, I specifically remember the interviewee pointing out the fact that the group was often guilty of violence, vandalism, and public disturbance. I believe that the interviewer was Steven Crowder. The woman replied by essentially saying that we're doing this for the future generations. A few broken windows is worth millions of lives. She also claimed something along the lines of, what we're doing will prevent a Holocaust. A Holocaust? These people have such delusional meanings of so many terms. Everyone, to them, is a fascist. It raises an essential question. Do these people passionately believe this? Do they genuinely believe that all Trump supporters, Republicans, and people of that wing are some sort of disfigured meaning of the term Nazi? Or is this simply a channel to express anger, to play the role of a revolutionary Marxist who's changed the world for the better in some way? The Facebook page of Rose City Antifa claims, we are unapologetic about the reality that fighting fascism at points requires physical militancy. Anti-fascism is, by nature, a form of self-defense. The goal of fascism is to exterminate the vast majority of human beings. This is a dangerous way to justify an ideology. By simply saying your actions are justified, you will widely appeal to people who share that idea. Nearly everybody hates Nazis. As a core message portrayed by the group, it seems like a great way to recruit en masse, and it is. The idea that you're contributing to some greater good, albeit one that doesn't exist, by getting around to run around the streets in black, hitting people, is the only way that these groups are able to justify their actions. This video is an interview done by Jesse Waters with a member of the group. The member claims that the group's actions are in self-defense. I interpret this as another way to accuse Republicans of wanting to commit some violent acts or genocide against them. They simply operate under the guise that their actions are working towards some common good.
Kevin, who doesn't want to give his last name, represents the Antifa branch of Boston, claims he wrote that letter. He joins me now via Skype. So Kevin, why don't you want us to use your last name? What are you afraid of?
You see what happened with CNN? They basically doxed that guy that made that GIF.
So you're afraid if your name is out there, people are going to come to your house?
Of course.
Okay.
Just
let me ask you something quickly, because you told this to our producer. You said, if violence is what it takes to bring about our goals, so be it. What do you mean by that?
Okay, you're kind of taking my words out of context there.
Well, what did you say?
Just a second now, you claimed that I'm promoting violence. We only want violence and self-defense from aggression by these racists and xenophobes that come and attack us at our peaceful protests.
Who's been attacking you guys?
Racists, mostly. They're racist.
Klan members have been attacking you guys?
Right-wing Trump supporters. Klan members fall under that category.
Okay, so how do you know they're racist if they're Trump supporters?
Because Trump himself is racist. He started his campaign on racism.
Yeah, because we're looking at some video right now. I don't know if you can see it, but we don't see a lot of hand-to-hand comment. We just see a lot of your crew smashing windows and lighting things on fire. How is that self-defense?
No, I can't see any video. I just got a blank screen here.
Okay, well, you got to take my word for it. Are you familiar with the violent actions that your group has perpetrated?
You got to take my word for it. It is in self-defense. Against right-wing aggression.
Was it in self-defense when you firebombed a limousine during the inauguration?
Yes.
Okay, because the owner of the limousine is a Muslim immigrant. Were you aware of that?
They claim that Republicans want to start some sort of holocaust, some violent action against them. This also ties into the current movement against the police. Oftentimes, police will arrive to counter these protests. The violent, destructive protesters, when shut down by the police, love to play the victim. They'll claim that they were simply protesting, that they were beaten by ruthless police for expressing the First Amendment. This ties into the movement against police by the likes of Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and other organizations. I think their intentions become clearer when we begin to look into the First Amendment and how they treat it. To this group, the First Amendment is something evil, something that encourages thoughts that oppose their own. They see this as a negative thing. Most groups would, ideally, foster the idea of opposite thought. While they often claim to represent free speech, and those who they attack oppose it, we can immediately debunk this by simply looking at several events. Back in August, when Milo Yiannopoulos was to speak at a UC Berkeley event, the activists showed up, surely enough. They've also done this multiple times for him, as well as for other speakers. This is simply proof that they don't need to stand for the First Amendment, and they don't care about it. They can't claim that Milo is a fascist Nazi either. He's a gay Jew, not Richard Spencer. How can you possibly accuse someone like that of Nazism? Their frequent protests seem to work in favor of their agenda, yet contradict what they claim to stand for. How can somebody whose principles call for free speech and good conscience work against exactly what they claim to stand for? Being honest, these anti-fascists are eerily similar to just that, fascists. As Winston Churchill once said, the fascists of the future will call themselves anti-fascists.